recent allegations by UAW are looking more and more likely to have been trumped up after it's been revealed that the Federal Monitor inappropriately used his office to influence the union's position on Gaza. I'm going to jump right into last week in Southern labor. This is what we do every week. We like to highlight what workers were doing throughout the U.S. South and the colonies. So this was July 5th to July 12th. So 18 workers, likely pushed by their employer at Puerto Rico Energy in San Juan, Puerto Rico, filed a petition to decertify the union there, the Congress of Industrial Unions of Puerto Rico. 22 workers at Division 5 LLC in Hickory, North Carolina, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Association of Ironworkers, IW. 10 workers at AT&T Mobility in Tampa, Florida, filed a petition to hold a union election with the CWA, Communication Workers of America. The employer filed a petition to hold a union election after a majority of the 12 workers at Brinks in Salem, Virginia, demonstrated support for unionization with the Armored Personnel Services Union. Interesting, I hadn't heard of that one before. And 11 workers at Starbucks in Sutton, West Virginia, filed a petition to hold a union election with Starbucks Workers United. Moving on to election results. 94 workers at AT&T in-home experts joined CWA last week. We assume this was through card check since there was not NLRB data on the win, but we got that from CWA, so congratulations to those 94 workers on joining the union. Here's an interesting one. The state of Florida, as anti-union as it is, sometimes grants voluntary recognition. It just so happens that it's for cop unions, as was the case when the state voluntarily recognized the International Union of Police Associations, IUPA, as the union representing 6 sergeants employed by Sarasota County Schools. So shout out to friend of the show, McKenna Schuler, for that reporting. Very interesting. 13 workers at the Westin Hotel in Washington, D.C. withdrew their request for a union election with the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE, Local 99. And 26 workers at Emery's Fused Minerals in Greenville, Tennessee voted 16-10 in favor of keeping the United Steelworkers USW Local 507G02 as their union in a decertification election. 36 workers at Corporation Sanos in Puerto Rico voted 16-18 against unionization with the ULEES. 5 security guards at Kerberos in Arlington, Virginia voted 3-0 in favor of switching unions to the Security, Police, and Fire Professionals of America, SPFPA. Moving on to strikes and bargaining, the EPA announced that it has signed the new collective bargaining agreement with the American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE. This agreement includes groundbreaking protections for scientific integrity after workers felt these principles were under assault during the Trump administration. Moving on to the grocery industry, Kroger and C&S Groceries are merging, and Kroger announced last week which distribution centers they would be divesting from. It's unclear to us if this divestment means that the distribution centers will close or will be run under some other ownership. The Teamsters issued a fiery statement following the announcement calling on State Attorney General and the FTC to block the merger, saying that it will inevitably lead to job losses, among other things. Sorry, y'all, getting a little bit choked up this morning. IATSE has published the MOA for the Hollywood Basic Videotape and Area Standard Agreements. It's the specific contract language of the tentative deals reached between IATSE and the big studios. Members of IATSE will be voting this week, July 14th through 17th, and announcements of the results will be on July 18th. And IATSE also issued a statement recently in support of the Hollywood Basic Crafts, who continue to negotiate with the big studios. Moving on to politics and legislation. This was an interesting one. Nearly half of Governor Ivey's cabinet received raises of over 30%. Meanwhile, teachers got a 2% raise. Just so you know, the highest paid cabinet member had a salary increase to over $258,000, which is up 32% from the prior year. The highest percentage raise among the cabinet was 40%, and the lowest pay raise was 17%. All cabinet members now make over $160,000. The 1996 Congressional Review Act, CRA, allows Congress to essentially veto certain federal agency actions. Currently, Republicans are pushing more than a dozen CRA resolutions to overturn pro-worker agency actions, including a new minimum staffing requirement for nursing homes for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. 50 labor leaders sent a letter asking they withdraw these resolutions.
Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
The AFL-CIO's executive board unanimously reaffirmed its support for Biden in a meeting last week. In the original endorsement vote, APWU voted against the endorsement, so it would be interesting to know how they voted this time, whether it was in favor or abstaining. So we'll talk more about the election coming up later this episode. Ann Wagner was confirmed to the Federal Labor Relations Authority, meaning the body responsible for adjudicating cases of federal labor law is now full and can finally hear cases. The FLRA still lacks a general counsel, though. Federal employee unions like AFGE, IFPTE, NFFE, and NTEU celebrated Wagner's confirmation this week. In sports news, a U.S. appeals court held that college athletes could be employees, in a huge loss for the NCAA and a win for the athletes. The court sent the case back down to the lower courts to determine a test to differentiate between athletes who are employees and athletes who are not. Busloads of CWA members from New York, Alabama, and North Carolina and across the country gathered in Washington, D.C. last week for the historic Mass Poor People's and Low-Wage Workers Assembly and Moral March on Washington, D.C. and to the polls. CWA's Director of Human Rights and Education, Angie Wells, also spoke there, saying CWA is proud to be here today to demand that our elected officials address the immoral reality of mass poverty and low wages in the richest country on the planet. Moving on to internal union affairs, UFCW reformers with Essential Workers for Democracy have filed a lawsuit against their own union, claiming that the delegate system at union conventions violates the LMRDA by not giving equal voice to all members. If successful, this lawsuit will mean that many unions' election systems will come under fire next, so that will be interesting to watch. I recommend reading the reporting from Labor Notes about that. Renowned labor educator and organizer Jane McAlevey died this past week, and in the wake of this, there has been a lot of obituaries to come out in the labor press, including in Jacobin, Labor Notes, and elsewhere. Highly recommend you check that out. She will be greatly missed, but her legacy will live on in the many, many organizers who have learned from her work. And the recent allegations from the Federal Monitor about UAW are looking more and more likely to have been trumped up after it's been revealed that the Federal Monitor inappropriately used his office to attempt to influence the union's position on Gaza, which, by the way, not related to the Federal Monitor. So only 6 days after the UAW made it known to the Monitor that they do not accept the improper meddling in union affairs, the Monitor, Borofsky, made a sweeping demand of hundreds of thousands of documents. DropSite, a new venture by Ryan Grimm and Jeremy Scahill, has built on some reporting on this from the Wall Street Journal, You can check that out for more. Finally, the United Campus Workers is holding their convention in Birmingham this weekend. My understanding is they will be consolidating their various campus-based chapters into one Southern local as they organize wall-to-wall in higher ed, representing grad students, staff, and faculty. In Alabama, UCW has grown their membership over the past year at the University of Alabama, Auburn University, and Jacksonville State. So that's all I have for last week in Southern Labor. If we missed something, hit us up, let us know. Just a reminder, we do send this out as a newsletter every week, so definitely sign up for that.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.